goes to right. Russell Westbrook.
You love the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me get a hell yeah!
What is up, everybody? It is Deibs, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. Welcome to Party on Broad. This is a preseason Sixers recap. I'm going to give you my top 5 takeaways, and I got Austin here to react to it. Welcome, Austin. You know him on Twitter at KrellTPL. What's up, Austin?
What's going on, Deibs? How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. I'm ready for Wednesday. How about you?
It can't come soon enough. The preseason is it's like a weird time of the season because you know you want to care about it, but you just can't because it's preseason.
I know, man. I'm excited that preseason's over and we can get to the regular season. There is a lot to be excited about for Sixers fans right now. All right, let's get into it. I have a top 5 takeaway list for the Sixers preseason. Let's start off with my honorable mention. Honestly, no one got hurt. Ben Simmons missed a couple games with back soreness, but all reports say that he's going to be fine. It was precautionary. He'll be ready for Wednesday versus the Boston Celtics. Whether it was Nerlens Noel, Joel Embiid, Dario Saric, Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz, dude, it feels like it's been a decade since the 76ers fielded a complete squad. And you look back in the history of the Sixers and how they started. Back in 2018, they were 10-7 by mid-November. In 2017, they were 22-20 by January 20th. If there is any reason for optimism, then look no further than right here. The Sixers are healthy. Brett Brown has a full squad to work with right out the gate. Legit rotation, baby. Any reaction to that, man?
You're making me smile. I'm getting very excited now. It's. I wouldn't say that they didn't have. They had a complete rotation last season at this time. It was like they were a figured out rotation, so teams knew how to play against them, which is why they made the trade for Jimmy and later Tobias, because they needed a new formula because teams knew how to play them. And
all right, so I'm just so ecstatic that we have a legit 9 to 10 man rotation, and that kind of leads into my number 5 main takeaway of the Sixers preseason, and that is the bench. The bench is legit, baby. And this one begins and ends with Matisse Thybulle, who was just mind-blowing this preseason. He ended the preseason with a ridiculous 46.4 steal percentage and a 35% block percentage. Those are ridiculous numbers. James Ennis looks fantastic. There were a few times, if you remember, man, that James Ennis was one of the best players on the court last year during the playoffs. Then you got Mike Scott. Who's Mike Scott? One of the best shooters in the NBA. And even Kyle O'Quinn had a ridiculous assist percentage of 38.9% during the preseason. Norvel Pell is better. So for reasons to be optimism, it's the bench. Any reaction to the bench, man?
Well, those all sound like they're good things, I guess. No, I mean, obviously they're great things. I would say that this bench is probably the best I've seen from this team since I've started watching the game, 10 years ago. They have depth, they have a lot of size, and for the first time since they've been good, they actually have a backup center who you could play in a playoff game and not feel like you're in a hole because of it.
I know, man. What does the bench mean? What does it all mean? It's just a different animal compared to last year, man, especially when you look at the roster back in 2018. You had Markelle Fultz, you had Mike Muscala, JJ Redick, Jared Bayless, Amir Johnson, all of these guys who had significant minutes off of last year's squad. There's just such a huge level up in terms of upgrade when you're talking about guys like James Ennis, who finally now has a clear role on a team. Matisse Thybulle, who's been just an emerging defensive player, and Mike Scott, which is obvious. It's just that level of versatility that these guys are going to bring off the Sixers bench is really something that Sixers fans haven't seen in quite some time. It's just that scrappiness, that level of toughness, that level of hustle that they sorely lacked last year. They're going to bring it, man. I just love this bench.
I could tell. My goodness. Yeah, it's a remarkable thing, and people really don't always talk about the impact that a bench can have on a playoff team, especially. What it really does is it allows Brett Brown to rest the most important pieces of his team, which are, I think, Al Horford and Joel Embiid, because you don't really need to give Ben Simmons a lot of rest. You don't really need to give Tobias a lot of rest. You don't need to give Josh a lot of rest. But Embiid you're trying to preserve, obviously, and Horford's an older player. So it means a lot that you can give those guys much needed TLC. And that's not a Timothé Luwawu-Cabarrot reference. That's like, sometimes you just need to rest. And I felt like last year, the lack of depth cost the Sixers a playoff series.
Oh, it was huge, man. It was so huge, especially during the regular season. If you remember, there was a time between October and January, February where as soon as those Sixers starters were out, man, it was just a free-for-all because it just Wilson Chandler gave you nothing. I love you, Dario. He gave you nothing. His shooting was so inconsistent. And then you look at guys like TJ McConnell. I love you, TJ, but James Ennis is a huge upgrade. They're going to be able to defend the backcourt for once this season. There's just a lot to love. And you even have guys like Zaire Smith, who will probably be starting with the Delaware Blue Coats this year. Just guys that you're going to be able to throw in depth-wise that you had nothing last year. The team was gutted last year from the trades. So it's just another thing to be excited about. There's a lot on this list to be excited about. Are you feeling that love, man?
About the bench or overall?
Overall, love, bench, everything.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you a question because you made an interesting point to me when you said that Wilson Chandler gave you nothing. Is Mike Scott really that much better than Wilson Chandler?
Yes, 100% better. He's a tougher player. He can shoot better. Wilson Chandler was kind of. What was your memory of Wilson Chandler? All I remembered was he was injury prone and he missed shots. He missed open shots. He rebounded a little bit, but he was basically a big nothing on offense and defense. He was.
There are two plays that come to mind for me for Wilson Chandler.
All right.
The one where he hit the three to put him up 4 against the Celtics on Christmas Day in the fourth quarter, and then the one where he blocked he blocked I think LaMarcus Aldridge at the rim.
Okay.
To win the game against the Spurs. But I wasn't sure where I was with Mike Scott versus Chandler, and yeah, you had that rugged dog mentality definitely plays in Mike Scott's favor. But I think that they're probably pretty similar players. Mike Scott probably is a better shooter, but I think overall, I think they give you just about the same. But overall, no. This team is I think ready to go, and I think that they've had blood on their minds for the last 5 months since Kawhi made the shot, and I have just one concern. I love this team. I'm very excited about it. I have one concern that I think is going to be an issue. Okay. And that's going to be the shooting on a night-to-night basis. JJ, he couldn't defend a brick. He couldn't defend a piece of wood. But you could look at him and be like, he was like a video game player. If he's open and he has the ball, it's just you're just depositing 3 points. That's it. It's over. It's automatic. There's no one on this team that I confidently feel like this guy is the go-to shooter. And there are going to be games that I think that they lose because they shoot 4 of 21 from 3, and they're games that they really easily should win, but they'll lose by 2 or 3 points because the shooting isn't there. So that's my only concern, and I think they'll probably address it as the season goes on. Yeah. But I think that they got to do it sooner rather than later. I think you got to make a list of guys who you are looking that you'd be interested in trading for, and if not that, then you have to look at the free agency market. And I know J.R. Smith's not the smartest player, but he's a shooter. He makes shots. He would be one of your best shooters right now. So that's something they're going to have to keep an eye out for, because they're going to have bad nights. They are.
Absolutely right. Is it a concern for me? It is, but my third and fourth takeaways kind of address this issue. And my number 4 takeaway of this preseason was playing smart team basketball. And I think this is going to be a little kind of like makeup over the Sixers' lack of shooting. And you're right, Austin, man. But the Sixers had the second best assist to turnover ratio this preseason, 1.54. They were the 8th best this preseason in the league in limiting turnovers at 18 per game. The Sixers led the league in second chance points this preseason and also had the 5th best in terms of limiting points, second chance points by their opponents. What does it all mean? As a huge TJ McConnell fan, I love you, TJ. I was worried that the Sixers would see a drop in hustle plays, in energy, in toughness. And boy, I couldn't have been more wrong. I see this additions of Al Horford, Josh Richardson. They are just a more sound team. These are guys that know their role on this team, and you could just see it. Just watching the court, the rotations on defense, they are boxing out, they're communicating better. Dude, I just see a better coached, more intelligent team on the floor this year. I think your shooting can take you so far, but you also have to consider how much Josh Richardson's going to bring on the other end of the court, as well as Al Horford. And I just see a completely different squad this year than last year. How about that?
Yeah, you're right. It's kind of this seesaw of flash versus fundamental. Like last year, you had all the flash, you had the star power, you had the shooting, but there were some fundamental lackings. You had holes on your defense. The pieces didn't all fit. This year, there's less talent, I would say, but there's definitely a better fit, and the pieces all go together better. And yeah, defense is going to win them games on a nightly basis because when they're not making shots, they're going to have to defend. And I agree with you. I think it's just you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to have instances where the chemistry isn't there. You misread a play. Like last night, Scott Brooks with that roster, which, if we're being honest, I mean they're not that talented outside of a couple guys. But they did this play a couple times in the second quarter where they would run. What is his name? Davis Bertans. They would run him off of like a flare screen, and he would pop out for a 3, and all the eyes of the Sixers would go to the shooter, thinking that he's going to get it, and then they just run a pick and roll simultaneously for Wagner, and the Sixers are looking at Bertans on the perimeter, and the ball's going to Wagner for an easy dunk off of pick and roll, and that's like it's a trick play, but it's a fundamental thing that you have to have covered. You have to have your help side there ready to step in for the roller, and so there are going to be times when they don't communicate on that, and it burns them. But I agree with you in general that this team is fundamentally extremely sound. And
my third takeaway of the Sixers preseason also kind of goes into that lack of shooting. It's ball movement, man. Yeah. The Sixers were the second best in the league in 27.8 assists per game this preseason, which is an increase from their normal average of 26 per game last season. They were 7th in the preseason in assisted field goals made percentage. What does that all mean? I mean, a lot of people were complaining about the lack of three-point shooting on this team. A lot of people were complaining about the lack of that Jimmy Butler type of player, the guy that gets buckets with 5 minutes remaining. The Sixers seem to be putting all of their eggs in that ball movement basket. Yeah, Ben Simmons hit a 3. Yeah, that was fun. But really, I think the main takeaway this preseason was the way that ball moved around the perimeter, the way that ball never stopped. That was a huge takeaway. That is just major kudos to like Al Horford and Josh Richardson. And Matisse Thybulle, dude, he has come right in. Just a perfect fit for Brett Brown's offense. The way he just keeps moving, attacking, and defending. Be able to defend over a pick and roll. The Sixers haven't had a guy like that since Robert Covington. So, I mean, if you look at the last 2 seasons, field goal percentage and assists were all down during the month of October for the 76ers. This is a really good reason to be optimistic about a strong start out the gate because, hands down, the Sixers offense the last 2 years looked stale. When the ball stopped, the offense was dreadful. This is the exact opposite of that. So Brett Brown's offense has always been at its best when the ball is moving, when everyone's moving without the basketball, cutting to the basket. That's what I've seen throughout this preseason. I couldn't be any more jacked up. Any reaction to that?
I got a lot of reaction to that. Wow. The passion and the excitement on your end is just unmatched.
All right, love
it. Yeah, so you got me thinking that I think in seasons past, like you now have two centers who can pass extremely well out of the high post. You have guys who are athletic enough that they can sort of be cut out and then cut right back in and get an easy layup out of it. And I think when you have such a willing passing team, what that does is the guys who are sort of the focus of those passes, they now are more energized by the idea of cutting, because if you have guys who aren't going to look in to pass you the ball, then why even waste the energy trying to cut and get yourself open if you're not going to get the pass? So I think what that does is it opens up the entire floor for everybody else out there. And yeah, you're right. The passing has been really good. And it almost makes me wonder, because like you wouldn't trot out a different offense in the regular season than you do in the preseason, because what's the point then if you're not practicing things that you're doing regularly? I wonder like if there are going to be a lot of nights where you don't have a guy who's 20 points a game or more.
Yeah.
But rather you have a bunch of guys who are 15, 16, 17, 18, almost like a Doug Collins on steroids era.
Yeah. A lot of people said, when are we going to see that Brett Brown San Antonio Spurs offense? I think this is really the first year. I mean, the Sixers have always been tops in the league in terms of assists per game. I just think this is like the year where it's at an elite level this year. My second main takeaway of the Sixers preseason has to be the defense. I mean, this has just been an incredible defensive performance all the way around. The Sixers had the second best defensive rating in the league this preseason. They held opponents to the second best efficiency field goal percentage at 44.1%. Only the Boston Celtics were number one. They can't come here soon enough. They were the sixth best in steals and number one in blocks per game this preseason. What does it all mean? Deflection season, baby. The Sixers were in the middle of the pack of this in 2018 after being one of the top teams in deflections in 2017, generating points off turnovers, causing havoc in the passing lanes, creating fast breaks for Ben and Josh and Matisse. This is everything that Brett Brown has talked about all preseason and offseason long. The Sixers' length, their wingspans, like their versatility, and the starting lineup and the bench, man, this is one of the best defensive squads we've seen since 2001. They have real potential to just suffocate people on defense, on the perimeter and inside the paint. Man, I can't wait. As a person who loves defensive basketball, 2001 was one of my favorite years because of the way they got at it on the defensive end. That's my number two takeaway this preseason, man. Their defense is going to be elite. Any reaction to that?
Yeah. So remember how last weekend when we did the party on Broad, and I was like, man, I talk a lot. well, get ready because this is going to be a long one.
Let's go.
So I'm willing to bet that at some point, either in the middle of last season or in the beginning of the offseason before free agency hit, Brett Brown, Josh Harris, the scouting department, Elton Brand, the whole shebang, they sat in an office and had a meeting and said, what do we care more about? What wins championships in this league more? Is it a defense that's a well-oiled machine, or is it an offense that is explosive night in and night out? And I think that they probably agreed that defense is what's going to win you a championship.
Yeah.
The offense comes naturally because you're all talented NBA players. You'll figure offense out. The defense is going to win a championship. And I think that this team is built to use length to smother you and create deflections and turnovers and get out in the open court, get open jumpers, dump the ball, pass. They're going to play a brand of defense that makes offense come easier because, quite frankly, I don't think they have the personnel to really go half court night at possession after possession. Their identity is going to be to force you into turnovers and then break you down in transition. And I think that's their goal. That's how they're built. That's what they're going to do. They're going to smother you and make you make mistakes, and they're going to burn you for it.
Yep. And that was something that they didn't do at all last year. They really took a hit as soon as Robert Covington left his team. That really took a hit in terms of creating points off turnovers, creating deflections, creating havoc in the passing lanes. That's been a focus this year, and that's really translated. And you got to get excited when you think of James Ennis, Matisse, Ben Simmons, Josh Richardson, all these guys that are just going to be night in, night out, a blast to watch on defense. Ready to do my number one, man?
As Tom McGinnis says, get excited!
Get excited! My number one takeaway of this preseason is Joel and Ben are primed and ready. Let's talk about Joel Embiid, who seems ready to go. He had 18.3 points a game in 20 minutes per game. Joel is Joel. I don't really think there's not much more to say about that. I mean, he's one of the best in the NBA. But Ben Simmons, between the ears, this seems to be the best headspace yet for Ben Simmons with the Philadelphia 76ers this preseason. The Sixers look ready to reap the rewards of this new and improved Ben Simmons. I'm probably going to get flamed for this, but for me, we all know how great Joel Embiid is. For me, Ben Simmons...
Is a hot take coming in? Hot take?
Maybe.
Drummer up.
Ben Simmons is the engine of the Philadelphia 76ers, not Joel Embiid.
Cold take.
The quicker he develops on offense, the sooner, the further the Sixers will go in the playoffs. Ben only averaged 13 points a game this preseason, and I think he only played like 3 games. But from everything I saw, dude, this guy looks comfortable. Maybe call it the absence of Jimmy Butler. Call it whatever you want. But Ben Simmons also defensively was just on a different level, dude. Best defensive rating on the Sixers this preseason, 83.1. All signs point to Ben being a terror on defense. Defensive Player of the Year says what up, but I got some stats for you, man. When you look at the last several preseasons with Ben Simmons, you look at his turnover percentage. It was a 40.9% turnover percentage for Ben back in 2018. It was a 19.6% this season. You look at Ben Simmons' usage rate, it was a 19.2% usage rate in 2018. It went up to 23.6% usage rate. So that means he's getting the ball more, he's getting more comfortable. He clearly is, feeling good with the absence of Jimmy Butler. And then let's go over to Joel Embiid, because Joel Embiid is a big part of this. Joel Embiid's turnover percentage went from 37.2% in the preseason last year in 2018 to 14.5% turnover percent in 2019. And his usage rate, when you look at 2017, 2018, and 2019, starting at 2017, it went 38 to 36 to 32. I think all of us can say we want to see less of Joel Embiid having the ball in his hands on the perimeter. I think it benefits a lot of the Philadelphia 76ers to see Joel get less usage rate. I think we want to see more, spread type of offense. Give that ball to Al Horford. Let Ben create. I think these are all really positive signs. The turnovers are down, and I think the usage rate is going exactly where it should be. Any reaction to that?
Yeah, he said a lot. Wow. There's a lot going on in my mind right now. You're right. I think it's a paramount step for this team is to see them both take that step in the next direction, become more efficient in how they play the game. Embiid, I am a little bit concerned about, because I think that there's sort of like a bounty on him by other teams and sort of the league. I think a lot of people remember that the elbow that he gave Jared Allen in game 2, and then they were a lot more loose with the flagrants against him going forward. And last night you saw against Wagner, it was a flagrant he got again. So I think he's going to have to keep himself in check. I think that they're looking to sort of they're keeping an eye on him, but he's in better shape. It looks. He's getting to the line as you need him to, and I think that there's just this fire in both him and Ben's bellies that they don't want to feel like last season ever again. That it's their team. Yep. They've been given the assurance that they're the face of the franchise, and they're ready to take them to new levels. And the ball is in their court, and there's no more. You're young. You're still learning. It's, hey, you both have max contracts. You're both adults now. It's time to do your job and do what we brought you here to do.
I mean, it was a solid A- to A, I think, preseason for the Philadelphia 76ers. When you look at the preseasons of past, their net rating in 2017 was a 0.5. Their net rating in 2018 was a 6.7. Their net rating this year was a 20.1. It was
champions. It's over. We can crown the champions right now.
Put the banner up. Shut it down.
I'm running across Broad Street naked as we speak.
In through the quad, out through the gymnasium. Let's go, Austin.
Exactly.
Their defensive rating in 2017 was 96. In 2018, it was a 102.2. This year was a 91.7. Best assist to turnover ratio over the last several years this season. Their pace was a little bit slower. Definitely something to watch. But just an A+ offseason, man. I'm just so jacked up. I'm ready for Wednesday. Can you tell? I'm a little excited about Wednesday.
You look dead to me. I thought I was getting worried about you, but I'm glad you're alive. And this is my favorite week of the year because you got Halloween coming up, so that means that AMC showing old horror movies, and I'm a big 1980s horror movie guy. And then B, Christmas comes early, basketball season begins, and I cannot wait to watch Ben feed Embiid for a dunk on Enes Kanter on opening night and have the entire building just melt.
It's going to be awesome, man. It's going to be awesome. The last takeaway I have, I'm going to just throw one in here because I'm rocking the Blue Coats hoodie right now, is the Blue Coats are going to be stacked this year. Looks like Zaire is going to start out with the Delaware Blue Coats, I think. You got Mario, Kamaji, Norvel Pell. Shake has looked really good this preseason as well, especially defensively. His confidence level seems to be back, thank God, from the Summer League. It's just, there's so many things to be excited about. Not so much the Philadelphia Eagles, but the Sixers, baby. It's going to be a really fun season. Any last comments before we wrap this up, man?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but the Blue Coats, they have a lot of NBA talent on their roster because the Sixers don't have enough space.
Yeah.
I think Shake has a chance to stay, especially after last night. It looks like Brett's going in the different direction than Trey Burke, and I guess Neto will be the 15th man. But yeah, I mean, Zaire will be down there. You're going to have Kumaje. You're going to have, I guess you're going to have Shayok down there.
Yeah.
And they're going to be guys that are looking to get themselves ready for the NBA. But one thing that has been going through my mind in the last week or so is that it's really remarkable how 4 years ago they were a 10-win team.
Yep. And
in a 4-year time span, they're now, without question, the best run organization in Philadelphia. I mean, Eagles won the last Super Bowl, yeah, but what has Howie Roseman done since then?
It's true, man.
He's taken a siesta. He's been in a nice slumber ever since then. And I don't think it's that hard to take. I mean, look what he's done. Nothing has been that remarkable that he's done. The Phillies are a mess. The Flyers exist, but the Sixers have taken over the city in 4 years, and they were the laughingstock of the sports world 4 years ago.
I couldn't agree more. We were always right. The process worked. It's going to be a wild ride, man. This is the year. Can you feel it? This is the year? Am I wrong? The Sixers. How many wins for the Sixers this year?
I think they get 60. I think they get 60 on the dot. But one thing that I keep thinking about is how much different our lives would all be if the Cavs or the Bucks hadn't taken Jabari Parker or Andrew Wiggins and took Embiid instead.
Right.
Like, we would be on a whole different path right now, and it would be we would all be crucifying the process. So the fact that things fell the way that they fell, I think we're incredibly lucky and fortunate to be where we are right now.
100%. Luck is a big part of it, you know? All right. Make sure you follow thepaintedlines.com for all of our 76ers content. If you're looking for some therapy, our last party on Broad, we just ripped Howie Roseman for a good 45 minutes. Check that out if you want. But that is the
How cathartic.
Follow Austin on Twitter at KrellTPL. I'm Deibs, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay awesome.
Sixers win it! Wow! Oh man, and being just posterized Russell Westbrook.
You love the Philadelphia